Hey guys, welcome back again to the Outer Dimensions podcast with Dave and Dre. This week we are talking. Now, you guys know that we talk about past, present, and future movies of all kinds, all genres, mostly centered around sci-fi, horror, and action. But this week, now last week we were talking conspiracies. This week, well, we're going to go to the other darker end of the spectrum with Summer of Demons. What does that mean? Well, we're going to be talking some favorites when it comes to horror movies, something that kind of because I mean, let's face it, summertime. You might think horror movies isn't that October? No, horror movies are year round, but some of these are some nice,
Listen,
fun,
if you can
twisty
watch
ones.
Christmas movies all year round, Hallmark has their channel.
Yeah,
We can talk, and Shutter has theirs to do Halloween movies. Horror's a year round thing, folks. I agree. And hello to my brother from another Captain Spaulding.
we got not only do we have Captain Spaulding, we also had Duff Man in the chat.
What up,
Let's throw that
Duff
right up.
Man?
There you go. Yeah, I like dark.
So do we. That's our whole premise for doing this. So again, Summer of Demons. I was thinking of the movie Summer of Sam with John Leguizamo when I came up with the
Yeah,
title for this. When Dave and I were actually planning this several weeks ago, and I was like, we need to do something that's specifically tied to like the summer. And I thought Summer of Demons because why not? And this actually, I put this in order this time. So when you look
yes,
at our cheat sheet, it's in
chronological order
chronological
there.
order, and I'm sorry that I did not do this sooner. It's a hell of a lot easier, let me
Now,
tell you.
and also that Summer Demons. Now, this isn't just going to be a one-off episode. We can do this throughout the summer. There's a lot of summer themed horror movies out there that we can do. There's a lot we can do with this. But yeah, out of three movies we're going to be discussing, the one, the only, the original Hellraiser.
Yes,
Of
folks, not the
course,
not the remake from last year that
no,
was
no,
on
no, no.
Hulu.
We're talking
Yeah.
about the 1987 Hellraiser. We
Hmm.
have the Wishmaster, which features a lot of amazing horror alumni, and we'll discuss it a little bit later.
Ooh, good word. I was thinking
Al-
icons, but I like alumni. I like that we're
Alumni,
good. We're staying
because
in that realm. I love that.
because honestly, the actors we're going to discuss, they have been featured in so many different sci-fi and horror movies and media that they are beyond icons. They're beyond legends. They are just
They really did
all
kind of make
onto
a school of unto themselves.
and
When you think
and who
about it.
knows? Maybe we will do a separate episode on their movies. So stay tuned.
I know, and we
And
do have actually something else just for you action junkies out there, because I know that we've been catering a lot. We did a lot for our sci-fi junkies, and we've done a lot for our horror junkies, but we haven't really catered to our action guys. Don't worry, Dave and I are currently working on some stuff. One of the things that
yes,
will probably be happening uh, on the July 19th show, I was figuring I'd like to say this one for the day after my birthday, will be our expendables. Yes, Dave and I are going to create a list of guys from all the years. If you could put them all dead or alive, if they're alive, awesome. If they're dead, oh well, oops, well. And we're gonna do as like who would be our expendables team and who would be their villain. So we're gonna kind of write our own
yes,
script and we're gonna present
yeah.
it to you guys. So
A,
that's gonna
a,
be
a, a
definitely a lot of
little
fun.
a little what if, it's our fantasy draft when it comes to, if someone's going to give us a blank check to make our own Expendables type movie. We're not using the Expendables brand, but our own kind of misfit 30 dozen, if you will. There's a lot we can do. We're going to be using now. We will specify details later on, but also just in case you guys wanted to, maybe you don't have the time to watch us, you can now listen to us on Spotify.
Yes,
That's right.
folks.
The Outer Dimensions podcast is now available on Spotify. So if you can't open up a tab on your computer at work, pop open your cell phone. You can listen to us on Spotify right on your cell, or maybe on that long car ride home. Who knows? You're making a taco run. You want to listen to Dave and Dre? There you go. You guys can do that on
Spalding, that
Spotify.
is you. We're hitting you with that taco run. But honestly, yeah. I mean, if what if you're at home, you're cleaning up the house, right? And a lot of people forget that like your PlayStation 4, not your 5, but your 4 has access to Spotify. And
Or
put that on and just listen to us in the background.
Alexa,
I didn't even think of that too.
Alexa, hit Spotify and look Outer Dimensions podcast, episode 5, Conspiracies.
So yeah, folks,
There you
that
go. Hey,
big listen, big shout out to Dave for putting the effort and the time to get that up there because I did the research and he went and did it,
yep,
put them up, and then now we're gonna try to chunk episodes. So
yep,
I'd rather us do like a big dump instead of
yeah.
weekly.
We
But if
we
we get
have we
people,
have 5 episodes on there now.
so if people get more, if we get some traction, and we may make it where we do it like tonight, and then tomorrow you'll have it uploaded to listen to this episode if you missed it.
Yeah,
So another way to listen to us, and it's awesome. So
and
the
also, guys, if you guys have any ideas, you have suggestions for us. Well, you guys, we have our own Instagram, the Outer Dimensions podcast on Instagram. Dre, we have a Twitter.
yes, we do. I actually made us we have our own Twitter, which I will post to my Instagram, tag the Outer Dimension Pod, Instagram, and
Mhm.
Dave, so y'all can jump on there. And believe you me, I follow movies on there. I since I'm managing that one and Dave's managing our Instagram, those pages are not going to be. They're solely just for our show, but the
Yes,
content
just for
that
the
we will
channel.
put up there will be movie based stuff. So, like if I see a trailer, I'll post it to Twitter.
Hmm.
If I see pictures of something, I'm gonna post it to Twitter, and you guys can respond, and it comes right to my phone, so you will be getting a response in real time. So
And
just let y'all
also,
know.
well, if you don't like using those formats, there's always the old email at the Outer Dimensions podcast at gmail.com. So you guys have multiple ways to reach us. But what do you say we get the show on the road? And you know what
I'm
the
saying,
show on the road means? Well, it's time for cheat sheet time.
I love that I like this cheat sheet, folks. I worked on this cheat sheet. Dave got it the next day. Literally, we finished the show. I gave it to him the next day, and I loved it because I actually learned. I feel like I learned a little something this week. So I'm gonna jump in with Hellraiser.
Okay.
So, for me, and this is where I'm gonna kind of do the cheat sheet in a sense for this. Um, it premiered September 10th, 1987. Now, here's the kicker. There was nowhere I could find online to do an American release. So it's either this was released simultaneously
Mm-hmm.
in the US and the UK. This was a UK filmed movie. So when everything is done in the British pound, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not the euro, it's the British pound. So obviously we're going to go back and harken back to the director of this movie and the writer. It's Clive Barker. Now
Yes.
here's the thing. Clive Barker, for those of you that don't know, a lot of these horror like director icons did write a lot of their own books and created their own lore to their universes. Now he had three novellas that he wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the first one called The Hellbound Heart, which is where we get the idea of the Cenobites from. Now,
Not Cinnabites. Not
yeah,
like not like you get a Cinnabon. This is something
yeah,
different, guys.
this is a Cenobite, a Cenobyte, and the way these creatures are, they are demon creatures that are kind of bonded to a human host. The best way of describing it would be if you've ever watched any of the Hellraiser movies, or if you saw the remake of the movie, a body is dragged to hell, and the Cenobite being dominates the meat body, the actual skin suit, and
Well,
then the soul
it's
is ripped out.
I'm gonna say it like this. Think of it kind of like in more modern terms for some of our younger viewers. Think of the show Supernatural when a demon or an angel takes over a human host. They the soul, the human essence is kind of put in the back seat and they're kind of watching it the entire time. So they can see all the horrors that the demon is performing. That's kind of like this, but with a more goth kind of weird pain fetish thing going
Well,
on.
and that's where I'm going to jump into next. So thank you for giving me my segue right in there. So obviously, Clive writes this novella series, right?
Yes.
He goes to now. I didn't understand the filmmaking process, so this was an interesting way of learning this. So to create this movie, he had to go to a British film studio. Several studios rejected him
Mm-hmm.
because of the underlying sadomasochistic S&M. For those that know
Well,
that, it's a fetish
that's a strong theme in his
lifestyle,
films too.
and it's across all his themes. All this theme is something that stays across every all four Hellraiser movies.
Nightbreed, Lord of Illusions. I mean, it
Hmm.
just anything that Clive touches, he brings that across, and it's just, I mean, to me, like when I think horror, yes, I could say Stephen King, I can say Wes Craven, but
Dean Koontz.
Clive Barker is just that kind of like there's no filter. We're not doing this to make millions of dollars. We have a sick, twisted story to tell, and hey, this story's inside of me, and I'm going to tell it. If
Exactly.
if if it puts you off, it puts you off. I mean, Hellraiser and like you heard me mention Nightbreed. That's a big favorite of mine because it is. You get. I mean, even in this movie, Hellraiser, we get. Um, oh, God, what's his name? Andrew
Robinson.
Andrew Robinson, who those in the sci-fi community will know him from as Garrick from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I
Hmm.
mean, he does tremendous character. He's a tremendous character actor, and he even though he's like, if you look at IMDb, he's the first name up there. He might be the one of the better well-known names up there, but really, he kind of plays kind of a semi-small part in there, kind of in a way.
And it's interesting because he this movie is full of relative unknowns. So
Oh yes.
Clive Barker went to so all these studios are rejecting him. Eventually, he finds one that decides
Mm-hmm.
to sign on and say, "We're going to take on your project." He had to fight within that same studio to make sure the rating wasn't considered. Um, I don't want to say
NC-17.
yeah NC-17, because remember, folks, for our younger viewers, we NC-17 was a rating that you got that was given in the late 80s, early 90s, all the way up until the early 2000s, and that was for movies that had overt sexual themes in them
Yes.
that were allowed to be that were not they were the border of pornography. There was like they were that like that thin
Yeah.
line, and literally these movies, for many, minus the gore,
Mm-hmm.
skirt that line. Now, obviously, movies like Showgirls, Madonna's Truth Lies and Videotape. Um, there's so many other movies that were like
Yes.
that were in that time period. So he eventually had to edit some scenes out to lower the
Yes.
rating down to a rated R, with which to
Dirty Uncle
many,
Frank.
yeah, like we all had that uncle that was like, "Yo, I got you. I'm gonna get you those dirty movies," and you all thought the dirty movies were like, "Ah, no." This was that movie,
Yeah.
RoboCop, Cobra. I can go down the list of all the R-rated movies.
Yeah. It's either if it's it had to do with the intense sexual themes or the actual scenes films, or if you had tremendously overly gross, like almost on the borderline of being a snuffed film, like if you actually saw someone like a movie that looks like someone's really being killed without any suggestion of it being fake or fantasy or fiction, that's where NC-17 came in. um, but this movie, now if you notice on the screen right now, I have it starring Doug Bradley, because to me, as Pinhead, that was the actor who played
Yeah.
Pinhead. uh to me, he's always a star. To me, you know I mean, the voice he does, that kind of deep, like
Well, it's not just
this
his body; it's that look.
it's
It's
the
that
look, the
whole.
mannerisms. Yeah.
It's like the poster says, "Demon to some, angel to others," because you got to
Yes.
remember, Cenobites are not. I don't want to. This goes into a lot of the lore, and a lot of people argue this on several communities I was looking at online. There's a lot of arguments that like the Cenobites are kind of like angels, and like they're that line between the devil and demons, like greater demons.
Well, I mean, they can be considered demons or angels to, I mean, uh those people who enjoy and thrive on pain and torture, masochists, these would be the angels to them. Like he tells the young girl Christy, I have such terrors to show you. or just like, and he's saying it like these are pleasures, like these are rewards. I have such sights to show you, and he's just,
He truly scared me. Like
oh
I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie and say that this movie did not.
we never saw anything like this before.
Yeah,
I
because you're
mean,
talking that fetish. That
87.
fetish. The fetish outfit didn't get me. It was the exactly what Dave said. It's the look, the tone.
Yeah.
People don't realize in the tone you speak. We now know it as ASMR, little ones. To all our young viewers, when you talk like ASMR and you're using all these things like this,
Yes.
that's how this guy talks. But he talks with a very strong meaning behind it, and
Let me
it's
show you my, just like
yeah, it's
it's
so it puts the hairs on your arms to stand up, and it makes you
and
it gives you
and
that sense of terror.
and we call him Pinhead because his head,
Has nails
there
sticking
is
out
a
of it.
grid of nails going around his entire upper scalp. I mean, that, and the Cenobites, we have Pinhead, we have a female Cenobite, we have a big pudgy one who looks like his eyes are gouged out and he's just twisted as hell. And by the way, as the sequels go on, the other Cenobites get a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more twisted, augmentally speaking.
Almost like Silent Hill. If you
Yeah,
think the level of Silent Hill twisted, folks.
Pinhead stays the same. And in fact, in one of the later movies, you actually see the origin of him, how he becomes one of them. But that's another story altogether. Um, let's start out with the premise. The premise is, in it looks like India or some maybe Middle Eastern part of the world. Uncle Frank, is, and he's a whole story unto himself. Uh,
True.
he's someone who, yeah, he has a very, he's all about the experiences when it comes to the flesh in many different ways. And he comes to this one guy, smoking in this little like hot Hindu kind of like coffee house place, and he drops these stacks of money. And by the way, 1987, there wasn't like, this shows like how grimy and filthy Uncle Frank is. Like his nails are like they're a little bit longer than they should, and they got a ton of dirt underneath them, which is just like, really, this guy's scuzzy as all. But he you know he wants, there's a box, there's this weird metallic puzzle box, which is what Pinhead is holding in the poster here. And Frank wants this money, wants it because he believes that it will show him, it will unlock hidden desires and things that he can only, that he's never even imagined. And well, he kind of pays the price.
And it does take you down the rabbit hole, folks. So
Yes.
imagine that this is not much like the theme, and I kind of think the theme across these movies, except for when we get to it, like that's a different theme altogether. But for at least Hellraiser and for Wishmaster,
Be careful what you wish for.
be careful what you wish for, because these guys literally twist the desire. So you say, like, say if you want to be like a millionaire, right, or you want to have it all, you can't have it all,
No.
or they'll give it to you, but then you lose everything else.
You
And that's kind of how, like, the
yeah.
theme
You want $1 million?
notice.
Yeah, you're gonna get $1 million, but now you're gonna lose it all because of taxes, or your wife has now become greedy. Now she's gonna leave you for someone else and take all the money with her. I mean, and it's definitely down like the, like Dre just said, be careful what you wish for. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always strings attached to it. And in this, I mean, we get Uncle
The
Frank.
string is really metal chains with hooks, with meat hooks on it.
Oh,
To be
yes.
honest, if you want to call that a string.
Yeah, Duffman says Clive Barker is amazing. You've ever seen the Twisted Souls
Yes,
figures?
I did.
He now, speaking of which, where are you?
You had to pull the bar down because no one could see your video. And I'll give a description, folks, for those in the audio of what Dave shows.
By the way, big shout out to Captain Spaulding, because he hooked me up with something very special a while back. Technically, my first horror figure.
Oh, that looks dope. And that's NECA, right?
That this is NECA, yes.
Wow. So, folks,
You got the
Dave is
alternate
currently
hands
showing a NECA figure of
of
Pinhead,
Pinhead from Hellraiser.
and he looks amazing. The outfit's got some cloth to
And
it
you get the blood running down the front.
with extra hand sculpts and him holding the pandemonium box.
Yes.
Wow,
And the
that looks
box
dope.
itself has detail.
I mean, yeah, like, but it's NECA. They do
Yes.
horror fantastically, so you can never go wrong. So yeah, I mean, amazing. And
That
Spalding, that's
that
dope.
is, yeah. Cap is always the best. But yeah, I mean, it's long story short, Frank is missing. His brother's moving back to the old house with his wife, and he even invites his daughter from his first marriage to come stay there. The house is a complete mess. There's like maggots, animals. The whole thing just looks like somebody was like, people were just crashing there against the law kind of deal. Like it just looks like
Squatting.
squatters. It looks like a complete mess. Lo and behold, after they fixed it up for a while, the wife, she finds that Frank is still there. Apparently, Frank was torn and taken to hell, but he broke his way out, and he's barely like a skeleton, almost like an oozing skeleton. And he talks the wife into finding victims so that he can become whole again. Because apparently, her and Frank, she was cheating on her husband with Frank.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well. So she, because she wants Frank so badly, I don't know, she's got issues. Because she wants Frank to be whole again, so she can have him and not her husband. She draws unsuspecting people to the house one by one under the guise that she's going to get freaky with them, but she doesn't. She goes hammer time on them. She takes a claw hammer and just backs him in the back. They bashes him in the back of the head, and Frank basically absorbs most of their blood and flesh so that he's slowly becoming more and more of a person. He still doesn't have skin yet, so imagine that. I mean, this has you're seeing flesh. Like imagine if there's no skin on a person. That this is Frank walking around and he's wearing clothes like it's nothing. You know, he's got this twisted thing, but at the same time, well, Christy finds out. She gets her hands on the box, unwittingly unlocks the box, and Pinhead and this Xenobites come out, and you know they want to take her, but she strikes a deal with them about, well, I know Frank so and so let escape from you, and they're like, that's not possible. Well, they're like, if this is so, bring him to us. They want him, and they're like, maybe we'll let you go. I mean, this is a film like you've never seen before. Forget anything that's out there. Forget the crazies. Forget your Pennywise. Forget Freddy Krueger. I mean, imagine this was happening to you. You find this little silly, like it looks like a metallic and evil, twisted looking Rubik's cube, basically, and you play around with it, thinking, "Oh, it's just a puzzle box," and then you get like four, leather clad, blood and just crazy S&M type freaks who want to take you to hell and show you all the demonic torture possible and then some. So what are you going to do about that? And she just wants her dad to be safe. She wants her to be safe, and really she could give two shits about the stepmother. So, but it's just one of those twisted movies. I mean, Clive Barker, like Dre said, he directed and he wrote this. We got Andrew Robinson, Claire Higgins, and Ashley Lawrence. None of them, I mean, other than Andrew Robinson, who is a star, he's known for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, who also, Hellraiser 3 also stars Terry Farrell, who would be on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So maybe there's a theme there. We don't know.
No, there is a definite theme across the movies.
Yeah.
There are there's some Power Rangers that have done it too, that have made the
Yes.
jump to B-rated horror movies. So
Tasha Yar, Next Generation, did Pet Cemetery, the original. So
yes,
yeah,
she did.
this only had a budget of 1 million, but they grossed 14.6 million. So there's something to be said about that.
Now, mind you, I could not again. I didn't dig deeper than I could have, but from what I found, this was only the UK release. I did not do the US. What I did find out though was when it was released here, it was very mixed reviews. A lot of people took it took to a very negative thing, and again, it's all because of this fetish lifestyle, demonic. Not even the gore, mostly the fetishism. Because you got to remember, here in America, everybody's very conservative.
Okay, so
So
I just did a quick search. I actually typed in Hellraiser 1987 financial information. Worldwide box office is just 14.5. That's what it says for worldwide, actually.
so the domestic. What about the U.S.?
Domestic was 14.5. Because here's the really weird thing: international was only 11,148. Now,
Well, it only
how?
was in UK. It was only in the UK.
Yeah.
It didn't
So
get it. They didn't get. It didn't go to like Asia
now, Dre,
until years
when
later.
did you first see it?
I saw. Okay, so 87 would have put me what? I was born in 78, 10,
Yeah,
11.
we're the
That would
same
have made me
age.
a yeah. So that was 87 would have put me at uh 9 years old.
Yes. Now, same here.
I did not see that movie till I was at least
I was
in high
11.
school. I
I
was
was
in high
probably about
school.
11 because my aunt and uncle had they had one of those cable boxes that was unlocked,
I love that one.
and
The little red
and
button on the back.
and they had actually taped it. So that's how we watched it. We watched it on video cassette because it was like shown on HBO or a movie channel back in the day. And that's the thing. There wasn't a whole like this was not something that was overtly advertised because this is like one of Clive Barker's first real big ones. But the fact that it grossed 14, I mean, you have a budget of 1 million and you don't double it, you don't triple it,
Fourteen
you
times
made
the budget.
$14.6 million. So I mean, that's not bad for 1987 for a horror film
And now,
that
mind you,
was a
it's a
virtual unknown.
and it's a franchise that still exists to this day,
Yes.
that they remade last year and has created toys. It has created just the only thing it hasn't
T-shirts,
done a
Comic-Con
video game.
appearances. I mean, there's
It's never done a video game.
I wouldn't mind seeing those. I wouldn't mind seeing Hellraiser on Dead by Daylight. I mean, they're doing everything else. They're going to be
With
releasing Nick
Pinhead,
Cage on it.
I mean, you know what I would like to see if I
Well,
were to,
well,
if
well
I would like to
not
see it
not
like as
just
a
Pinhead,
Resident Evil.
but the Cenobites in general.
Well, I mean, we got it in Silent Hill. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing like a Hellraiser style game done like Silent
Yeah,
Hill. That would be
yeah,
a
but
dope game.
I mean, you could definitely turn Hellraiser into its own game with the puzzles
That's what I said.
because
Exactly. Take the Silent Hill model
yeah,
and then just lace instead of the crazy doctors and nurses and Pyramid Head.
yeah.
Pyramid Head's your villain would be Pinhead, and then the nurses
Well,
would be
not
Cenobites.
just that because in the later sequels to Hellraiser, we are taken into the Hellraiser domain, its
In their
dimension, if you will,
dimension. No pun
and
intended.
no pun intended. But like, there's even one that takes place in like a future, and there's like almost like a space station or satellite
Mhm.
that is designed to kind of look like part of the puzzle box itself. And during the course of this film, at one point, young Christie is trying to send the Cenobites back, and each part of the puzzle, she has to kind of like unlock or lock it to send that Cenobite back to their dimension. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different things. The box itself in later sequels takes different shapes all onto its own. So, I mean, it's definitely something that is out there, and I have this go watch this one. It's only 93 minutes, hour and a half. It's only an hour and a half. It's really not that long at all.
It's an easy
It
sit. Trust me,
it
it's an
is.
easy
I will
watch.
say it is a bit dated. Yes, it came out in 1987, guys. So it is dated, but I mean, still to this day, I mean, a lot of the blood special effects stand up to this very day.
Well, that's what makes it better. I think personally, I think it's better than the CGI blood splatter that a lot of
Mhm.
movies adapt now. I think that that was kind of what was a standout of the 80s and 90s horror genre was the use of like and no not and I'm apologizing folks in advance. This can be traumatic what I'm about to say, the use of like animal innards and like fake rubber hoses and things like that to create what would look like organs and the actual
Oh
blood
yeah.
splatter. Like, because before we had the laws that we have in place now, a lot of movies companies would like, hey, if you had like, you'd go to the slaughterhouse and say, all right, can I just get all those guts and I'm going to use that, and they would take the buckets, and that's when, before we had the corn
And
syrup
by the way,
thing.
there have been people who've recreated this look of Frank. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to show you I'm going to show you a Facebook of a friend of mine who recreates this on the regular at different cons. Let's see if I can pull that up. Here we go. My friend Tim at a con standing next to a Captain Spaulding cosplayer, but he's got this is all prosthetic. This is all like a one-piece mask that he wears that he made.
Nice.
And he's got the bloody outfit just like Frank does, and of course he's rocking the cube right there, the puzzle box. Just, I mean, it's people recreate these at cons all the time, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and ironically enough, we have like Mad Monster coming up here in Charlotte in like, I think 2 months, and I know a lot of people are. I know like Captain Spaulding was telling me he's going to be going to Mad Monster Party out his way. So there are a lot of these horror
Well,
conventions that people do go to and dress up, and there's some really good cosplay. So don't
mm,
let it be like, oh, I'm
yeah.
a horror fan, I can't go cosplay.
No,
Get
you can.
in.
You can cosplay at any con. And in fact, I found out my wife had shared something with me because one of my all-time favorites, someone I had a celebrity crush on back in the day, is coming to Niagara Falls, New York for not New York but Canada side for the Frightmare in the Falls. Don't judge me, Drake. Christy Swanson.
I can't judge. She was up. She was one of those sweethearts, man. She had
Buffy.
that.
She
She
was
was
the OG
Buffy. She
Buffy,
was
you
the yeah. She's the
know.
OG Buffy. You can't go wrong. Luke Perry, may
So
rest in peace.
you, you know he got that. Come on, let's be honest.
Oh, Anyway, she
Even Charlie Sheen,
ironically
Peggle
enough, I can believe that everybody in like that out of that series, she broke out. But
yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, that was a far cry from her small little bit part in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
facts.
But to round this off, Rotten Tomatoes Hellraiser holds a 10%. Is that 10% or no 70%
70%.
approval rating? Now, mind you, there was no Rotten Tomatoes back in '87, so the fact that a movie this old holds a 70% approval rating, guys, that's gonna say something. Okay,
Well,
don't
now
sleep.
the Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. Now these, so for like Dave just said, Siskel and Ebert was
Oh,
the Academy. Siskel and Ebert were the big, the big two. If a movie came out and Siskel and Ebert gave it thumbs down, people didn't like it. It would be totally destroyed. So these aggregated numbers are
yeah,
from recent reviewings and re-releases of these
exactly,
movies. So
exactly.
it's like Hellraiser just got, I know a couple of years ago, or about maybe 10, 15 years ago, they did an updated, like where they updated the quality of cinematography and they put it on Blu-ray. So they base
You
it
know,
off of those aggregated
remastered.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So they're looking at remastered numbers. We're not,
and
they can't go back to the day. They also look at ticket sales, which
yeah.
that factors in as well, and there are those numbers do
But
exist.
also, I mean, we didn't have the mass media, the big press that we do now.
Mm.
And second, Siskel and Ebert. Those that don't know, these were two highly touted Chicago critics from the Chicago Tribune and Sun Times, if I remember correctly. It was a skinny, bald guy who looked like your uncle John from like Poughkeepsie, and then Gene was it Ebert. Roger Ebert was just he was this overweight, could have been your science teacher with thick glasses, and they were guys who even back in the '80s they kind of had their own. They were raised in a certain set of values, which was completely different from the current times. And personally, I always saw them as, and I would watch their review show,
Yeah, because they
and
were on local TV, so they
I
were
would
on regular TV, so you could have
so I
seen
would
them.
see what they thought, and a lot of times I disagreed with a lot of their views because what I'm not trying to be anything, but we had these two, let's say Midwestern probably around what, early to mid 40s.
Oh no, these guys were 40s, what older white males,
40s
middle
to 50s. Yeah,
class.
yeah. These are two white guys that could have been your high school teachers, and to me, they always felt out of touch. That's the most plain way I'm saying this. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, yes, I'm a white guy, but
And I'm
I mean,
Hispanic, just so
yeah, I
you
mean,
guys know, you can't tell by our
we're
voices.
not putting judgment on any race or any backgrounds, but back in the 80s, these guys were kind of out of touch, and they were all about the academy and with certain what was supposedly mainstream, because back then in the 80s they wanted to put, I mean, these were the type of guys that put ratings on video games. Okay, that's when video games and music were being given ratings like explicit advisory warning, parental advisories. MA. I mean, that's why on TV shows we would see MA's, TV MA for mature audiences.
And
I mean,
that's now.
these
That's
these were
more. That's a
these were
recent
the
thing.
type of guys that wanted to censor everything. And if it, there wasn't a whole lot of independent films back then, even though Cannes was around for many years, decades. These were guys that really they might review some independent films maybe once or twice a year. Okay, they were totally mainstream. They were totally on the payroll. But this is one of those movies that flips the script on the horror genre. It did in the 80s, and if you watch this, I guarantee you will enjoy it. Personally, back then, this blew my mind. It flipped the script. It got me wanting more and more. Okay, I wanted more of the blood and guts. I wanted to know more of these demonic, twisted beings that were the Cenobites. I wanted to know more about the box. I wanted more of this, and of course, over time we did get more. Some of the stories kind of deviated here and there, but I mean, it's. Let's read the rest of this. The consensus, elevated by writer director Clive Barker's fiendish, unique vision, Hellraiser offers a disquieting
Yeah,
and
disquieting and sadistically
statistically
smart.
smart alternative to mindless gore. And it really is. You watch this. This is not your Freddy Krueger. This is not your Michael Myers.
It's not
This is
Saw.
not Jason.
Like
Although,
Saw, I think honestly, Saw would replace this. If you like mindless violence, Saw is that.
no. How about the Cenobites versus Saw?
Oh
Who's got the
God,
more twisted puzzles, man? Or
Jigsaw,
what if
bro.
Jigsaw was made into one of them?
That would have been. Oh Lord, that'd be horrible. If Jigsaw
Like
became a
like
Cenobite,
like Pinhead comes to Jigsaw and says,
I'll get the cancer out of you.
come to us. And he'd be like, I mean, man, dude.
That could be a freaking
So
fanfic, folks. If
yeah,
you all are interested, I'd love to hear that fanfic story.
we'll do it. I mean, if we need to do some voices, I got some other YouTubers we can pull in to do voices.
We could.
Will Grimsley and KBG. Trust me.
Oh
Uh,
God, yeah, KBG definitely.
uh, Aaron was working with someone a while back, but I don't think it came to fruition about doing a fan film of something. So, but hey, let's move on. We talked about Hellraiser and the the tormented pleasures of hell.
So we're in 87, folks. Now we're gonna come into
10 years.
97. Now, for those of you that do not know Kurtzman, oh my God, you're living under a rock. This guy
Okay,
has
if you don't
blown
know
up.
Robert Kurtzman, now this is 1997. Kurtzman would not get his true due
Till
until a show
2000s.
until a show about a sheriff waking up in an empty hospital during the zombie apocalypse. Walking Dead.
I mean,
I mean,
you can't even go wrong with that. Like, I
and
mean,
and
literally,
here
he's established himself as the sci-fi
here's this.
horror
Now,
dude.
is this coincidence that our first movie was September 10th of 1987, and we leap 10 years into the future? It's September 19th of 1997.
And I'm
September
biased.
was always
Yep.
good.
And September seems to be a theme because the other two movies that are after this are
Oh
also
damn!
September.
See that's the thing though. Back in the day, we wouldn't wait for October for horror movies. We would start doing them like August
Oh
or
yeah, because
September.
you had to
Man,
realize. Okay, so folks, let's go through it like this before we get into Wishmaster real quickly. You got to remember it's all by seasons, right? So you have at Christmas you have Christmas movies. So we bypass that into January, right? Now January till about March, You have maybe a couple of sports movies, a couple light comedies and action, maybe some
Rudy,
animation.
Rudy, what?
Exactly.
Iron
Then
Giant.
now now we got to go past all that. Summer blockbusters. Your summer blockbusters start late April, early May, and go run
Or
all the way
July,
through.
Independence Day.
True. Or and they run all the way through till about late August.
Transformers. Yeah.
Now, horror movies slide in sometimes in the summer and they don't really do too well. That happens. Like, I'm not gonna say Insidious because I think Insidious, this last one that's coming out, looks good, but I think
Never saw it.
I've seen all of them and I'm interested. This one we may talk about this one at a later date when it comes out on streaming, but Wishmaster is one of those movies I vividly remember, and I laughed, I cried, or I didn't cry, I laughed and was just like, oh God, because it was a different spin on, again, a trope that people don't always use. And when I say trope, for those young viewers that don't know, tropes are basically an idea that's kind of like a reused idea within a or theme across a movie. The trope in this one follows the jinn or jinn or
Yes.
genie, folks, and those are tied to Arabic, Middle Eastern
Mm-hmm.
lore. Now, what if not the typical "I'm a genie in a bottle," but what if
Okay,
these
Christina.
exactly? I was waiting for you for that. I was waiting. I can't serve them up any better than that. What if these creatures lived in their own realm as they do? The Jinn
Mm-hmm.
have their own realm and they look human, but their abilities and their powers are that to grant you anything. And like we said, be careful what you wish for, because not only do you get it, but the idea behind Wishmaster was you got it, but then something greatly was taken from you.
Yeah, and right in the beginning, there's a nice little narration done by a
Oh
fantastic
yeah,
voice, which that tells you about the Jinn, and that is spelled Djinn. Jinn. The D is kind of silent. So the Jinn, they can grant you three wishes, but there's not this like one person says, "Oh, I want to see something amazing or something, you know, unbelievable," and that can be people's insides being turned inside out. That's something unbelievable. Be careful about the wording of what you say. But one wish, two wish, you do the three wishes, that unlocks the door. Okay, it's ripping the lid off Pandora's box and letting all the Jinn into our world for them to totally warp our world any way possible. And an army of Jinn waiting, busting to break loose and wreak havoc on our world. Now, 1987, Robert Kurtzman directing, Peter
90,
Atkins writer.
97, not 80. We're 10 years after,
Yeah.
folks.
And take a look at the producer. We got Wes Craven on deck. Wes Craven, Freddy Krueger. Wes did so many fantastic films. Now the actors, well, Tammy Lauren, she did a lot of like Canadian movies, and she
She did
did
a
a few
couple other
things.
B-listed
Yeah,
stuff.
she don't get me wrong, she's a cutie. She's got kind of like a Jerry Ryan, young Linda Hamilton kind of
Yes,
vibe going on.
yes, she
Don't
does.
sleep on it, man. Don't sleep. But let's take a look at this. Right after her, we get Andrew Divoff. He has played so many villains in TV shows and movies. He's
But
got
he's our
another
Jin. Just so you guys know, he's the main
big
villain.
bad who's got an amazing voice when he's talking. He's just got the way of talking to people, and it's just it's. I mean, geez, it's one of those voices I would love to have if I could choose my voice.
Oh wait, let me just. I'm gonna pause you right here before I want to give a little soundbite about Andrew Divoff. So for those of you
Bring
that
it.
don't know, I love to kind of find weird things about people, like the actors, and I knew I recognized him and I loved him in Wishmaster. Divoff is Venezuelan born, so he's born in
Mm-hmm.
South America. The dude speaks 9 languages.
9 times,
9,
languages.
9 different languages. When we're saying that his voice and the tone of his voice would be freaking ASMR stuff worthy now, the
Oh yeah.
way he speaks, and he speaks with this Arabic. He speaks Arabic. He speaks German. He speaks Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
English, French, Chinese. I was like, Lord help this dude. He speaks more languages than I do, and
but
I'm like,
he's
he's
got that
amazing.
he's got a look that the ladies definitely love,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But he's got that, he can have that stone, he delivers these like quips, but he does it with a stone face. But let's take a look at some of the other co-stars here. Kane Hodder, Jason,
Alumni,
Tony Todd.
alumni.
Okay, Tony Todd, which a lot of younger people might know from Final Destination as the, as Death, if you will, but
Hmm.
Candyman. I mean, Tony Todd, I've seen in. Let's not forget the remake, the first remake of Night of the Living Dead. He was in there too.
And Tony
He's
Todd
an
was in the
amazing
remake of
friggin',
Candyman too,
yes.
as well.
He's an amazing friggin' actor. I mean, he's, and also we have more Star Trek alumni. He was Kern in Star Trek: The Next Generation, his Worf's brother.
Wait. You also know something else about Tony Todd? I just realized that we don't. That he is
he
one
also
of.
voiced he also voiced Zoom in the CW Flash.
Yes, I knew that. I knew, but here's something I didn't. I also realized he's one of the few people of our alumni list
Yes.
that actually stayed his character through every iteration of Candyman, including the remake from 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Just as folks, that's a big deal when you think about it, because not only did we notice that like Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, and like
Oh,
they're the two.
there's
They're the
more in
two.
here.
No, but they're the two that always were Freddy and Jason. Tony Todd is Candyman. Like you, homeboy stood
I mean,
that dude
he yeah, he definitely played other roles. Robert Englund, sci-fi and horror alumni.
big time.
Those who are asking, wait a minute, what are you talking about sci-fi? He was on a, back in the 80s, there was a mini series that turned into a TV show called V, as
Yep.
in Alien Visitors. V, and he played an alien who was kind of a good guy. But
The
Robert Englund,
lizard people.
I mean, he's played Freddy Krueger. He's played so many other characters. He's both Tony Todd and Kane Hodder and Robert Englund all appeared various appearances in Supernatural too.
They were also Robert Englund was also on an episode of the remake of Hawaii Five O,
Yes, I
which was
mean,
a Halloween based episode, just so y'all know. So it
and
wasn't really a deviation from his character by much.
and Robert Englund, now he's this like art and history curator, so to speak. And the way this movie starts out, we see the Jinn basically wreaking havoc at the small little like Middle Eastern country. And the sorcerer comes up with this red stone. Let's just call it a philosopher's stone, just for lack of better wording right now.
I think that
Which,
was what you could call it.
yeah, because a philosopher's stone isn't just to, isn't just for like Harry Potter. A philosopher's stone can be used for transmutation, which a lot of mystics and wizards and clerics of the day use to battle great evils. Well, they use this to kind of trap the Wishmaster, trap this Jinn inside. And they do. Centuries later, well, you get Ted Raimi, brother of Sam Raimi. And of course, we know Sam Raimi from Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell
Spider
movies
Man.
like, yep. But
Drag Me to
Multiverse of Madness,
Hell.
Multiverse of Madness, we won't bring that up.
Drag Me to Hell. Hell of
Evil Dead. I
Evil
mean,
Dead.
yeah,
I mean, we can go down the
but
list of his
yeah.
accomplishments.
So I mean, we have a lot of great alumni in here. Okay, well, at the docks, there's this one drunk dock worker. He spills his coffee after he puts some whiskey in it. A lever hits, and this big, massive crate that is holding the statue, which is going to hold the gem, crashes down right on Ted Raimi. He's squashed into nothingness. He's killed right off the bat, but in doing so, the statue gets damaged, and one of the dock workers finds this stone, takes the stone, put it in his pocket. It changes hands a couple times later, and finds its way to Tammy Lauren, who is, she's works for Robert Englund, and then later is trying to find out what is the composition of this unique crystal, this unique gem. And this like half, like innocent person who kind of just wants to date her, who's friend zoned, is like the lucky guy who gets to do some laser experiments with it. It explodes, he's dying, and the Jinn emerges and starts to get his strength because, well, the guy's dying. So he's like, "Do you want me to end your misery? Do you want the pain to stop?" And he's like, "Well, yes." And he's like, "Okay." And of course, he just kills him. And with that, every time the Jin grants a wish, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Eventually, he goes from looking like a full on blown weird like Power Rangers type demon to looking
Human.
like a human. And him and Tammy are basically doing a battle of wits. Her character's name is Alexandria, but for some reason, because she held the stone, she sees every time a grant is wished, she kind of gets a flash of what's going on. So she's now psychically linked. And him and her are like in a battle of wits. But this is just another, I hate to use this word, but I have to, another deliciously unique and refreshing kind of horror movie.
It
Because
is.
it wasn't a slasher flick. This was like, you know, if I had infinite powers, if I could make anything happen, and I could twist your words into anything. I mean, there's a scene where a homeless man is kind of pissed off that this pharmacist who doesn't want him loitering around his store, and he's throwing all these curses around, and the Jins is like, he compliments him on his colorful curses. He said, "Do you really mean them? If you could give him a curse, what would it be?" And he's like, "Well, cancer." And for him, yeah, I want him to have cancer and die. And just like that, the Jin grants the wish, and the pharmacist starts to develop these boils all over his body, and eventually just dies right in front of customers, right behind the counter. That's just one example of some of the twistedness that you see in this movie. And this stuff is not cheesy. The effects are not cheesy at all. I'll
Mm,
even say that.
come on, I'm gonna call you out. I love you, but I'm gonna call
Uh,
you out.
are you talking about the
The,
Jin suit?
not the suit. That I can live with because that was great. But for '97, remember we just got morphing technology from Terminator 2 Judgment
Okay,
Day.
I was about to say,
So
if you're about to say Power Rangers, we're going to have words.
no, no, no. Think of
Yeah, but
the way the backgrounds when they would go into the psychic realm,
I
like it would
I
go
will
from like that
counter that.
overlay.
I will counter that because take a look at the budget of $5 million for what they had for the big names that they had in the film. For only having a $5 million budget, they did damn well, damn well for their special effects.
Oh no! Well,
Because
again, times changed, budgets have changed. Time limit say the same. 90, the hour and a half time limit.
okay, we're going to Google here because let's say okay, Terminator 2 came out in let's see here. I'm trying to pull up the information. That was 1991. Terminator 2 was 1991.
Hmm.
Okay, so 6 years earlier, but it had a budget of let's see here. I'm trying to pull up the budget right now.
James Cameron. Let's be real. And
I
Schwarzenegger.
mean, yeah, it's okay. Looks like budget of $102 million. So I mean,
That's
yeah,
Cameron, and you're paying Schwarzenegger. You're paying
yeah,
Robert Patrick, Linda Hamilton.
but and Cameron develops special effects for every movie he does. So I mean, again, I stand by that the special effects that they did for this movie for the budget was amazing. And you can't
Oh
tell
no,
me I'm
it was
wrong.
solid. No, no, I wanted to just make fun of you because I love that when they would do those they would do these odd transitions that are really
Yeah,
funny. Like they would look when he was granting a wish and she could see it. It was like she's looking at like what we would call basically green screen technology,
yeah,
and like you'd see like him like over the person. He'd be like, "I'm going to grant your wish now," and like she's like you see a look on her face like no, and then, like the screen would go like red, and then you it would
yeah.
flash into like the
It
actual
was almost
effect.
like Kill Bill, Red Flash.
Yeah, and minus the
I
air
mean,
horns.
yeah. I mean, it's you know, if you compare it to now, yes. I mean, the special effects
It's
would be 1,000 times better. But for yet again another movie that really wasn't overly pushed as far as the media.
mm-mm.
I mean, $5 million budget, and we get the big names of Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, Robert England. I mean, those were big names. Would say that they were big. I mean, Andrew Divoff, he is
he
pretty well
became
known.
he became a better name. I
Yeah,
think because
after this,
after that movie, because
yeah,
even they said that because he no longer so this spawned three more movies after it, and the three movies that spawned after it, Divoff had no ties to them. Craven left them. They were just direct to DVD, direct to Sci-Fi Channel movies. Now, obviously, we all know the stories beyond that, but Wishmaster itself didn't do well. It was kind of a cult classic, and late there are rumors that there are people looking to kind of reboot the franchise to make it a more modern. There's four movies. Okay, I thought there was only three.
I'm on IMDb right now. Wishmaster 1997, Wishmaster 2, Evil Never Dies. Um, Wishmaster 3, Beyond the Gates of Hell, 2001. 2002, Wishmaster 4, The Prophecy Fulfilled.
But I know the guy that took over the role of the Jin. He stood from 2 till 4. It's the same dude. So Divoff
Yeah.
left after the first one, and it's the same
And
guy,
and you
new
know what?
actor.
I can get behind doing that because you don't want to be locked into one series and one series alone. Looks like 2002 you had Michael. Let me see. I'm trying to see who was the Jin. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm curious to see who it was. They actually show scenes of him. They show a quick glimpse of Andrew in here, but
Yes.
probably like him transforming into something else.
Hmm.
Let me see here. I'm going through here right now. Go through cast. I'm curious to see. No, he was in there, and they give him the name of Demarest. That might be
Interesting.
the Jin's name, Demarest. Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do some research. Dig that one. Dig that one
Yeah.
up. But let's move
Yep.
on to the actual. I want to move on to this one. This one is a personal trauma slash newfound love slash. I still
No
fucking
trauma
hate.
here. No trauma
I
at
still
all
fucking hate
here.
clowns. I still hate fucking clowns. I will say it to the day I die. Hate, hate, hate,
Hey,
hate,
just wait
hate
until we
clowns.
go over Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's
Oh, I
gonna
know.
happen.
I
It's
know.
it's it's gonna happen.
So let me jump on this one here. So obviously because I saw the Flash recently, Andy Muschietti is the dude that directed this movie. Now, people that see, I'm not gonna do the Flash. That's a whole different
See,
episode. Me and
T3
Dave.
knows it
Yeah,
is far better
it
beyond my expectations.
it's a damn good movie. Obviously, we all know this is based on the original novel, not novella. The difference between a novella is that a novella is under, I think, 100 pages, and a novel obviously goes like it's several hundred pages. Um,
I mean, Bill
this is
Skarsgård, obviously.
let just to go into this. You obviously know who the person is. It's Stephen King.
Yes.
Now, Bill Skarsgård, he is the Pennywise clown. The original, obviously, being being Tim Curry, who is freaking amazing. Um, the actors in the first one are pretty much all unknowns. They had minor
At
roles in
that
TV
time,
at that time. Now, mind you, this is going back 6 years ago. So
1997. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with the budget numbers because this is where it shocked me. $40 million budget. All right, Bill, whose
Pretty
dad is
modest for nowadays.
for a movie that's not that old, under 10 years old, that's pretty modest. What it grossed in the US box office, $701.8 million. Folks, that rivals close to, if not some, Disney slash Marvel films. We're talking like Fast and Furious doesn't even get numbers like that. So just
And
giving
and
you guys that
and
idea of
and that's without
understanding
throwing a clown over the moon and through a
with a
satellite in
dinosaur coming
space.
out of with a dinosaur opening its mouth and the car exploding. But this movie's runtime is, yes. I also heard that
Uh,
he's going to be the
yeah,
Crow. I've
I'm
heard that
fingers
as
crossed
well.
on that.
I think he'll do a good job. Now, obviously, the runtime for this movie is long. It's 2 hours 15 minutes. Or sorry, 2 hours 20 minutes.
And
Not a
35 seconds.
not a bad movie. I love it because this is done. If you read the original novel,
Mm-hmm.
The kid's story is a story that a lot of people overlooked. And when we saw the original It that was done as a television show in the 80s with John Ritter and Tim Curry and
A
everything else,
TV movie on ABC. Yes.
exactly, that movie only focused it gave us snapshots of what
Of
occurred in the past.
yeah, as
This
kids.
is a whole this really blew my mind because I eventually read them when I started working for Barnes and Noble. This would be about 20 years ago. I read the novel, and I liked the novel because it gives you such depth on these characters that you wouldn't have really cared about. It's almost like if the Goonies was a horror film, this is the Goonies. These kids that live
Basically.
they live in obviously in the town. Their town is overrun with these odd occurrences that happen. There's several instances of things. Now, obviously, for those of you that know, I'm a lore junkie. I love things that have a deep, rich culture and history to it. This has it 110%. There is a whole universe that we saw in the Dark Tower, which was if you read those series of books by Stephen King, there in that world is where Pennywise is from, and Pennywise is a demon from that whole universe. Which again, I think Dave and I need to do a whole just series of videos of just the lore behind these movies. Now, obviously, the little boy that we see in the picture, we all float down here.
Yes.
Pennywise,
Yes, Georgie.
the hair stand on my arms when I think about it because Lord help me, that thing scares the crap out of me. It's the little boy looks in there, Georgie looks there, and they go through this whole kind of the eyes. It's what gets you is the eyes. It's you see Pennywise's eyes
Yeah.
from the sewer, they just start circling like this hypnotic pattern. And
Mm-hmm.
Georgie's just like, oh, and he was like, come here. And then he gets like closer, closer. And you're a kid, you're a kid. Your brother's not playing with you. You want to go outside. No one's listening to you. He went outside. He done did wrong because
Yep.
he got ate up. Arm got taken. And
Yep.
then the whole thing goes into this tragedy and you start finding out that other kids are missing in the town. Now I'm not going to go into the whole deep dive of this whole movie because it's just I think it's one that you just need to watch.
Spoilers. What?
I really I'm not going to spoil the ending because obviously the ending
And I
leaves you to the cliffhanger for the next movie which
I
came out
will I
2
will
years
throw
later.
this out. I will throw this out. I love how they kind of give us a more realistic insight into the traumas of each child.
Yes, and the
Okay.
fears, like, because that's the
Yeah.
big thing. King plays on not just the trope of childhood
But
trauma
about the
and
fear.
fear, but that
Yes.
fear, and like that you really it made you care about the characters.
I will
Now,
say this.
obviously, go ahead, Dave. Because there's
Uh,
one thing I'm going to touch on that might be touchy for some
well, I
people.
was gonna say Stephen King. There's one thing he can do. He can write characters.
Oh yeah, one of my
I mean,
favorite.
he's
I'm reading a
tremendous.
book about that now.
I mean, not to get off subject, but Stephen King. You guys want to watch some? You want to read some good Stephen King books? Non horror. Green Mile.
Dark Tower.
Well, that's a good one too. But I was also going to go with Shawshank,
Shawshank's good, but the
and
reason I say Dark Tower is because my wife
those
got it for
those
me.
are all about characters and their developments, and what a character goes through. Yes, we know you picked it up in Ollie's.
I'm just showing that to the people. So for those of you that are listening to
Flex.
this on Spotify, this is the completed graphic novel that I wanted to get back from 2008 because that's what Marvel
Hmm.
Comics released this, and it was touted to be very very controversial because Stephen King, a lot of people presume that he's racist. He's not,
No,
but a lot of the tropes of the characters, like in the Dark Tower, they refer using the N word. There's a lot of the gunslinger character comes from a time where he's black, and there's a lot of things, and a lot of people were saying that and we see that with the one friend that's the black kid, and no, it's not that
no,
trope at all.
no, it's not. And
Dead that
and
noise, folks.
and I will defend Stephen King. I'll defend any writer. Look at it this way: if you write a novel, you write a story, okay, or even if you grow up from a certain time, there are certain slang, certain words, certain metaphors that people will use. Okay, this is not just in books. It's not just because, oh, you're from the Midwest, you're from the West Coast, the East Coast, you're from South. That doesn't mean not a damn thing. Look at it this way, okay? Look at some of the stuff, like we could look at H.G. Wells, we could look at Samuel Clemens. I mean, we could look at Shakespeare. We can look at any writers throughout history. Okay, if I was a writer in the 50s, you know that segregation was a very real subject, and there it was something that was very strong, and it was prevalent. Some people would read that kind of stuff and not bat an eye. Look at Disney right now. Disney is retconning and removing stuff because
which
it
is
was it
ridiculous.
was movies and amusements attractions that were created 60, maybe 70 years ago, potentially speaking, and they were made because it was just it was a they were well known, people loved going to them, so they left them there. But now in today's society, where everything
Snowflakes.
is being canceled and everything's being corrected, certain things are being removed. Now, am I saying that that's wrong? No, not necessarily, but as an example that, look at history. If someone writes a book in the 50s, it's going to have those themes of the 50s now. Now, are those themes justified now? No. But if you're doing something that's historically accurate, you have to embrace those kinds of themes. Okay?
Antoine Fuqua. Let me go through some directors here. Spike Lee, Anton
Yes.
Fuqua, Quentin Tarantino, Robert
Yes.
Rodriguez. These are guys that when they touch on the tropes used within those tropes and ideas of using minority characters,
Mhm.
they play up to it. Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Well,
Obviously, they make fun of the people are like, oh well,
you
Danny
mentioned
Trejo
one
is
person. You
Spanish.
mentioned one person there. Quentin Tarantino. Obviously Caucasian guy, but everyone embraces it though.
I mean,
I mean,
Django Unchained.
how
Django
how,
Unchained,
how many
folks.
times is the N word dropped?
And but the thing is, it was people were so mad at the movie, and that's one I think we're gonna do too, because I love that movie. I think it was great. I love
I thought
Tarantino as a
Jamie Foxx
director.
was amazing in
Jamie
there.
Foxx is freaking amazing. He's just
I
a hell of
mean,
an actor. But folks, that's what we're trying to tell you. I just wanted to lay that out there.
yeah,
But do not look at this because the obviously I forgot his name in the movie, but that character, his name is Jaden, not Jaden. What was his name? Jeremy Ray
Chosen.
Taylor. No, his name is
Oh,
Jeremy Ray Taylor, the actor. The
okay.
the kid actor did a great job. The adult actor, the, for his counterpart, the 20 years later or it's 35
Yes.
years later, that he of being that I was the glue that stood in town as everybody else left, and
Yes.
now. So, Dave, let's move to the next slide because this is the last one. We don't need to worry about
Okay.
Rotten Tomatoes because I want to read because we both know that
Well,
it's
I was just
freaking
gonna say. I
amazing.
mean, Finn Wolfhard. This is before Stranger Things. This was kind of like one of his early breaks. I want to
No,
say
no, Stranger Things is already he. That's where he got. That's
this.
why he got him
Okay.
this movie because he
Okay.
was in Stranger Things.
I have to apologize because I just watched Stranger Things this past year. I
Oh
watched all
God,
all the seasons, so I just recently caught up.
yeah, my wife and
So,
I love that show. It's a great show.
but I thought all the young actors were fantastic.
They did that's what I'm telling you. Say like
For
Dave
young
and
actors, they did an amazing
they
job.
did it right and they
I mean,
paid attention to the things. There was things that you could tell Stephen King went for to
yeah,
appeal to people that were growing up at the time, like the
and
quarter on the machine when
yes,
they're playing in the arcade and they have there's the movie
yeah.
theater and he
Mind
put
you,
the
the kids
quarter
are in
down.
1988. That's when they're kids, so they did
Exactly.
did a great job with that.
So let's move to the next one. Oh.
While still honoring the original.
Mhm.
You know,
Now,
they
mind you,
still
we didn't have any of the original actors show up except for Stephen King, whose cameos in both movies.
yes,
So, but this obviously now notice I've kept this theme very coherent and consistent. September is the time period. Now there's a little bit more for it chapter 2, which I told Dave this before when we were doing this. This movie holds a lot more for me because it was one of the first horror movies I took my wife to go see, and the only reason I got her butt in the seat was because I said, "Babe, it's based on a novel," and she was like, "I'll go see it." Obviously, same director, obviously same cast. 2 years later, but it's about a
good special
35 year.
effects, unlike some other movies that the director made.
Oh yes, Flash. Flash. Excuse me. That tortilla chip I was eating. Obviously, we got Bill Skarsgård again, but now we're gonna change the focus of the past. See, we were in the past in the first movie. The second movie, we are in the present day.
Mm-hmm.
People are in the town. There's a fair. One of the adults gets attacked, and then a girl goes missing. But what created Pennywise? What was the concept of Pennywise? What who was he? Now, obviously, that's what we start getting, and the adult children that have survived the
Mm-hmm.
trauma realize that we didn't kill him, we stopped him temporarily. And that's when this movie goes into
Putting a bear in hibernation, basically.
exactly. And the fear. One of the things I remember that got me to get my butt in a seat to see this movie, and I remember my wife was like freaked out by it, was the grandma, the old lady
Well,
that was giving the milk, making
does,
cookies.
does Stephen King have a thing for like
He
weird,
does.
twisted, naked women or something?
Not just that, because you have to
Shining?
look at M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. He did
Yeah.
that too with the grandparents' house. So, but this whole you got look at the cast. You got James McAvoy. Love James McAvoy. Love,
Yep.
love, 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 love him. Bill Hader, hilarious comedian, did a fantastic job in this movie. Like, did not think I was gonna love him as the character he was. He was great. Isaiah
He's been doing
Mustafa.
a lot of better stuff. Not being the cheesy person he was on SNL.
Oh yeah.
Jessica Chastain.
Oh yeah, or Chastain, as people like to.
Chastain. Sorry.
I had to find. No, that's what they told me. I had to
Another
look it up.
sci-fi alum.
Oh,
She was featured on Stargate Universe, actually.
Yes, she was
in season 2. So another sci-fi alum. Same thing with James McAvoy. I mean, he played, of course, young Professor X. Children of Dune in Dune, the remake from early 2000s on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's done a lot of amazing stuff. Like you said, Bill Hader,
James Ransome.
Some of the other names I don't recognize all that much. But again, Bill Skarsgård back again as Pennywise. But yeah, it's the Goonies coming back together, the Losers Club.
The Losers Club, folks. And I'm gonna tell you something. Let's go into the budget. Then I'm gonna go a little deeper into some of the lore.
They went up $39 million from the last one
because
so they increased the budget.
They increased the budget. They brought home less money because of the competition, and I forgot exactly what was in the theaters at the same time. I think it was like John Wick 3 was in the theaters. Yeah, John Wick 3 was in the theaters. Parabellum.
So still, that's nothing to sneeze at.
473.1 million USD, folks. That's what it got in its opening weekend.
So I mean, it made about what 5 or 6 times its original amount.
About five times from the math.
So I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's
longer. I mean, now, my wife did say she did not like the fact that the runtime was almost 3 hours. Now, I did agree with her because of the fact that it was based on the novella, but they were digging deeper into the lore of Pennywise. Now, I mentioned the Dark Tower. If you had seen, is it called it's called the Lone Gunsman, the first book of the Dark Tower?
Yes.
But did you? There was a movie with Idris Elba. And
the Dark Tower, that's what it's called.
Tower. Okay, so yes. So if you saw
with Matthew McConaughey,
playing the Man in Black, which ironically enough, folks, that was a lot of where people got mad. But if you saw the Dark Tower and you did see that Stephen King movie, a lot of people crapped all over it. It's not a bad movie.
Listen, I have it on Blu-ray, and I actually enjoy it.
It's actually it's a solid film, and the amount of Easter eggs, which are not Easter eggs because there are lore connections directly tied to Pennywise, to The Shining,
the fair and such.
Exactly. There's rides. There's movie posters. There's actual. I think there's Stephen King linked all his movies from the novellas all the way through in the Dark Tower, and a lot of people that are diehard
the Stephen
fans,
King verse.
Exactly. It's a
multiverse.
Which people said that if we were going to see a multiversal movie within the Stephen King universe happen, Dark Tower was the lead-in, but because it didn't gross nearly enough money, it kind of tanked, and that's one we'll discuss at a later date too.
Perchance a multiverse of madness.
No,
probably. We won't
go there. But again, this whole movie played up on childhood trauma. We know Jessica Chastain's character. You open to her in
Yeah,
this like
the father was
beautiful mansion.
abusive.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
father was abusive, and then you see her
Mm.
like as this beautiful woman in this really nice house, and she's escaping from another abusive relationship, and
Mhm.
they're all trying to get back together, but they realize that the further away from the town they were,
The more they
the
forget.
memories they forgot. But when they started coming back, it's everything became like riding a bike. And I say that it pun intended because Stephen King sells one of the characters a bike in the
Yes.
second movie, and it was James McAvoy, and that's what triggers the memory. And then we go down the list of how do we kill Pennywise? How do
Not
we
the
go
greatest
after?
bike, but
Oh no, that rickety ass bike was hilarious. But it there was some the cinematography, the fear. One of the biggest fears I think of is like you get put in a coffin and you're alive and you can't get out. And these kids are in that room. They see that coffin fly open, the clowns fly out. I mean, like that ruined it. Like for me,
Mhm.
I was like literally on the edge of my seat, not in a good way. I was like, oh, this is not what I want to see. But for those of you that know, I'm terrified of clowns. I've always been terrified of clowns. I stay being afraid of clowns. Grown ass man, black belt in martial arts, still afraid of clowns.
Oh,
Doesn't
don't you.
It's irrational. I have an irrational fear and I don't care.
But by the way, sidebar. Next time we play Fortnite with Blue Sasquatch, do not mention that.
Oh no! Well,
Do
Spalding, you're in here. I love you, brother. Don't talk to him about that. No le dice eso a él, because I will find you. I'll be Liam Neeson. I will find you. But again, the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie
yes.
went down. Now, originally the movie scored a 73% with everybody, which is pretty good. That's almost like a certified rotten to most people, and
Hmm.
the fans loved it.
I'm going to
But
say this.
go
I'm
ahead.
going to say this. One, let's face it, sequels. We all feel a certain way about sequels, so I think that has to do with some of it. For
We all have
for for
sequelitis.
one, okay. Two, the fact that we kind of just automatically jump. We don't see the transition. We just automatically see them as adults, and we're trying to figure out who each person is at first.
That was a little off-putting. I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
I just thought about that because
So
after
I think
rewatching
I
it,
think
that was my issue.
that might have lost a few people with that. Like like they could have like since the movie was so long, they could have edited a lot of stuff. They could have done like, okay, 5 minutes, like a 5 minute montage showing, who they were, and oh, they moved away, they went down, a quick, 10 seconds of this person in college, or this person starting a family, or this person, to show them where they went. But no, like first we see like James McAvoy. We're not too sure who he is just yet. It's that waiting. Okay, obviously we know who
I
Jessica
think,
is.
yeah, because
I
she's the
mean,
only
there's only
female
one girl in
within
the group.
with yeah,
you
she's
know
the only female, so that was
I
pretty
mean,
obvious.
there's that. I mean, just you don't have to spend like 20 minutes on it. You could give us like a quick little, like you could have had like some music doing a little transition, and we could see glimpses of each person, or like even like Mike, the one who stayed behind. It could have been like a little scrapbook if he stayed in contact with
That
everyone
would,
over
you
the
know what?
years.
What about that?
That
Like,
would have been a nice little, because he's the one that calls everyone back. He's
after
the
the
one that
death of
calls
one of their
everyone back.
friends.
So obviously he stayed in contact with everybody. If he would have had like a scrapbook of like, oh,
Well, he did. Well, he did
Bill
have that. Well, he had
Bill
his
did
bat cave.
this.
He did have his
Yeah,
bat
yeah,
cave.
yeah. He kind of had like this kind of like weird murder board kind of like whole montage. Like
The murder
it was
board.
it was like Smallville. It was like the wall
Oh
of
yeah,
weird.
he
He had that going on.
literally,
But
yeah.
if they would have had like maybe him going through a scrapbook, and we could see, oh, uh so and so getting married, and this person doing this person doing, you know, that they could have done that, and I think that would show a transition as to, okay, we're now going to know who these people are. You don't have to spend 20 minutes on that. You could do that in less than 5 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes,
Hmm.
and
I would have
you would have saved
appreciated
some
that.
of it. Now, see
I
something like,
agree with you.
because one, it shows the humanity, because you got Mike as the lone watchman, if you will. You know, he's the one at the watchtower, so to speak, the one watching over the town, keeping tabs on everything, and he's the one that calls everyone back saying, okay, this is the time. So obviously he stayed in contact with them. You could have had him like maybe he's reminiscing before he's about to call each person. Thinking about reflection of how his life has been and how different their lives have all been. It would have been a nice little thing, and it would, gives us a little like reflection. Okay, this person went from this to this. We don't just get like, smacked in the face. Oh, the guy with the glasses is a comedian. It's like oh the one nerdy guy. He's like a danger assessment analyst or whatever. You know,
The little
oh,
Jewish kid from the first one,
yeah,
folks. For if y'all wanted to know,
yeah.
he was
I mean,
great.
we could have
Putting the
seen.
band-aid in his mouth.
Yeah,
Oh God, just
yeah.
there's some things, folks, that when you think about it, like Stephen King
There
does
are
such
some
a
graphic
great job.
moments,
Oh yeah, they're
but
very graphic
but
moments.
like some of the things like him, he winds up marrying someone that is kind of a mirror image of his mother. Sometimes we
Oh yeah.
we wind up, and the same thing with Jessica's character. She winds up going for someone who kind of is mirroring her father. I mean, we get those kind of.
Oh,
And
they gave that vibe to us, so
yeah,
we knew.
yeah, but I mean something like a scrapbook montage would have been. You didn't have to spend a lot of time, and it would have been something kind of cool to kind of give a little bit more. Like, I mean, you can't tell me that, oh, I've held on to your phone numbers for 27 years. No, that just doesn't make sense. Like, how would he still have that information unless this shows that he's been in contact with them on the regular over the years? That just makes sense.
Now
That would make more sense.
I will say the thing I liked but bothered me at the same time was the tie to Pennywise being an alien entity, and not alien as in like Cthulhu alien, like from an alternate dimension, which is kind of what the Dark Tower alluded us to, was that he was an extra dimensional creature,
Yes.
where this was more tied
He
to
came
like
down in like a meteorite shower kind of deal.
exactly like a meteorite fell to Earth,
We got evil
and
Superman.
yeah,
Like,
and it was like, and the Native Americans, due to smoking peyote, of all things, you get
now,
high.
yes. And also with that, they go with the Native American angle with that. And I mean, well, one could say, okay, that the organism or entity that would eventually evolve into
Giant spider
Pennywise.
monster, by the way, folks, which I'm also
Yeah.
terrified of spiders. So that, I
Who
get a twofer.
I mean, is it that, he took over, a local
It
local
was
Native
the
American,
no, no,
and
no, no.
that's where the
It,
paint comes from, and that later evolves into being a clown later on. I mean,
well, no,
it
no.
it
So the organism that we know, that the little spider monster supposedly goes into the boy who was the
yes,
abused little boy, which we know is Bill Skarsgård, and
yes,
he eventually kind of like manifests, and they use the fair as
yeah.
a way to kind of like mask the murders, like so he could like mask it and say like, oh well, people disappeared, okay, but which is also tied to a German folklore about the clown creatures being goblins that would take children, a human that would be manifested, and the way they didn't like have like they didn't birth
But
more clowns.
also that using the circus or a fair or whatever as a cover up, this has actually been done in real life.
Oh
There
yes,
are actually stories of serial killers who worked. Trying to think where I read this one story where um, it was the daughter of the killer who was like an insane asylum, and she was talking to someone trying giving the full story on how her father was a killer. I'm trying to think where I remember it from, but I remember reading it, and it was and he was a clown, believe it or not. So who knows, maybe that was a slight inspiration for Stephen King way back when. But
I mean,
I mean
and when you
it's
look at it, when you look at the overarching things that were like kind of happening, like with the abuse seemed to be a very stable theme, and
mental
bullying.
and physical because
Yes,
we had the local bullies in the first film.
and he
And then
survived to the second one.
yeah. And well, we get a new set of bullies in this one right in the beginning who actually attack a gay couple,
Yep. And it was their
and
first time
it,
visiting the town because one of them was
yeah,
actually born there and he moved to New
yes.
York. And then when he came back to visit, he gets
And his
that's where the
partner
attack
is
happens.
attacked and thrown over the river, and that's kind of like the first adult victim, so to speak, to Pennywise.
and that's where a lot of people were like, well, why did that happen? Well,
Yeah,
because he sees the red balloons, and that's what triggered a lot
yeah,
of the memories, and that's
yeah,
what got the story rolling. Now,
yeah.
obviously, am I going to tell you the rest of the movie? No, I want you to
No.
watch it. This is one of those movies that where if you the splitting of the movie is done so perfectly. And I know it's kind of a modern thing to do now, like where you say like, oh, part one, like we'll say Fast and Furious is this did it with Fast X or Fast 10, where they were like part one and this part two. I think that that's actually good for us movie viewers. One, it lets us know that
Well,
we know what to expect, that there's going to be more to the story, and it's kind of a cliffhanger,
considering the
which I
original was a
like.
mini series, so
True.
obviously the original one with Tim Curry as in the title of Pennywise, obviously with that was such a long story that they had to break it up into different parts. So I mean, this is not something that hey, we can tell this in one movie. No, it would be like maybe a 3.5 to 4 hour movie, and even then you're leaving a crap
Of
ton left on the cutting room floor.
Which
So
I like that he did that with the
yeah,
lore we got in these two movies.
yes,
Like you said, I think you said it best, dude. We got the best kind of story of for like if you didn't read the novel and you saw this movie, you really got about 70% of the novel
yeah.
in watching this movie, folks. Would I recommend going to read it? Yes, it's a way better read than it is in the movies. But most novels are, and I 100% believe why we call this a demon. Pennywise, for me, all clowns are demons. I mean, again biased, but
Well, again, fear.
it's that
No,
fear, and
fear. I mean,
he's tied to what you wish. Like
even as
he's supposed
adults,
to be happy.
as adults, we have things that we dread.
Mhm.
Okay, things that we dread, whether it's going to the in-laws, whether whether
I
it's
think we all do that. We all dread that
eh,
one.
no, my in-laws are pretty good
So is
for the most
mine.
part. My side of family, not so much.
I
But
would agree with that.
but I mean, we all have fears, whether it's are we dreading, do we have an elder relative who we know eventually might need assisted living? Do we, are we dreading, maybe leaving a current job in hopes of a new one? Yes. These are all fears. They're like, well, we have this self doubt, and those are our own internal demons.
Hmm.
So fear is a demon all onto itself. So that's how I view it. Is that's why this is dealing with fears. Like we actually see in this one, we see more manifestations of visions of fears from each of the characters
Which is
that we
tied to
didn't
The
see in the
Shining.
first one. And we didn't
Which
see that in the first one either. And yes, one character does have, I would say, definitely has a little bit of a shining.
Which,
Hint, hint.
folks, again, folks, I think if you guys are interested in this, please comment below because I would love to deep dive the lore of The Shining. Because if you saw Doctor Sleep with our boy Ewan McGregor, great freaking movie. Tied, which is the kind of sung sequel to The Shining. That whole link.
I've yet to watch that actually.
Well, we'll have to give you a reason to watch it so we
Yep.
could do it. So, folks, give Dave a reason to watch that movie by having us do a deep dive on the lore of it because there are definitely kids in this movie, at least two in the Losers Club that have the shine, the actual shine,
Yes.
and I 100% believe it and I love it. So overall, this movie to me, I don't like aggregator sites. I gave it for even with my fear, it gets a 10 out of 10. I love Stephen King. Like I said, I just said it before. I'm reading a current book on how to like he actually explains how to write a novel, like how to write.
Mhm.
And I wanted to read it, so my wife actually is reading it too after me. But I love the book, so
Okay.
I think I'm gonna tell you now, folks. The cast for the sequel, the cast for for the first one were thought of, and they mirrored each other very well. This
And
is a great
those kids
sequel.
are back in this one in
Yes,
flashbacks.
they show up
Just so you guys know.
so you're not actually not seeing these same characters. There are several instances where you see them. And again, why do we recommend it? It's a damn good movie. It's a damn good movie outside of it being a horror movie.
I mean, it's a popcorn muncher for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's a night. It's I mean, you can make a whole night of this watching both movies. It's definitely
Pause, get up, go do something else for a
you
little
know
bit, come back to it.
if you got let's say you got a summer storm hitting your way. throw It's Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 on, or just make it like, hey, watching it Sunday, watching it Saturday and then Sunday, or Friday and Saturday. Yeah, make a nice fun time of it. Um, as far as kids go, I would say this is okay for maybe your tweens, 12-year-olds coming of age.
Yes, Dave and I. Okay,
Okay,
so
I
what?
would not
There's
say
a
anything younger than 12 or 13.
and there's a reason Dave's saying that because obviously my teenage daughter, she's got an interest in horror movies. My sister and I are diehard horror junkies, and we were trying to think of movies. So Dave and I were on for about 2 hours the other night, just chatting it up about, what movies would we show, would we show her. And then a lot of them we kind of synced up on. Some of them
Yeah,
we agreed that were just a little too graphic, but I told my wife about it, and she was like, "That's actually kind of cool." And that
and
got me
if
thinking
you
we should
guys
do a
want to
video on
know
that.
our list, comment in the video description below, or comment on Spotify, or message us on Instagram or Twitter and say, hey, we want to know your list, and we will make a proper list. Because Google, we were looking at Google's list, and they had like Corpse Bride, they had like kids stuff in there, which
Franken
is
freaking weenie,
Franken Weenie.
folks. Wait, hold on, Lana, come over here. I'm gonna bring my daughter over here so
Okay.
y'all on video will see her. But so if I told you to watch the horror movie Franken Weenie, she's laughing. She can't even hold her face.
See?
She the minute I said Franken Weenie, she's just like. But if I said hostile, see her face changed. It's like instantly she's like, oh, like okay, Franken Weenie, Paranorman. Same like huh? But then I start
Beetlejuice.
saying, but then see Beetlejuice. I told you that's they got boobies in that one. We don't want that yet. That's a little. The wife and I don't like that one for her, and they curse whole lot in that one. But if I said aliens,
Beetlejuice?
she just nodded aliens. See,
Okay. Yeah.
I know I've been putting a little folder for her
Yeah.
to enjoy this summer of movies for her to watch. Thank you. Um, so she can get into the understanding of
Yes.
like what good horror is. Because as a parent, we do have that level of responsibility because if they go to their friends, they'll be like, "Oh, go watch
And
Smile. Go watch, like
and by
any
the way,
other number
guys,
of bad horror movies that are out
by
now."
the way, like Dre said, he picked up the graphic novel Dark Tower. Now
That was my Father's Day
at
gift.
he picked it up at a bargain outlet chain known as Ollie's. Now we have no affiliation with Ollie's, but even I've gone there and I've picked up some pretty amazing books. It's a nice, good spot for if you're looking for birthday gifts, Christmas, holidays. You get some discount books there. I've bought plenty of stuff there. You can get tons of comic books there too.
Their graphic
Sometimes
novel
complete
section was actually
sets.
really good.
Their
And to be
graphic novel section is amazing. Now
to
we
be
have no
honest,
affiliation with Ollie's
but if you guys want to sponsor us,
bargain outlet, but
we'll gladly sponsor.
yeah,
We'll take the sponsorship because I'll tell you now, this book was $24.99 originally when it was released,
and you got
and
probably got about $7 or $8, I'm
four
guessing.
ninety nine,
Oh, even better.
4.99, and I can I used to have a few of these books because they just became hard to come by, and for me, I don't need to grade comic
They
books,
have
but
carried past issues of The Walking Dead, Batman Beyond, DC New 52, tons of. I've even seen some Conan books there
yep.
in the past. So I
And you
mean,
can find
there's
recent
tons of
stuff
stuff
there
there,
too.
guys.
You'll find anything within the least at least the last 10 years of comics. You'll find in there, and that's over almost 20 years old.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we're
actually
looking
on
at
the hunt for
15
some
years.
Evil Dead stuff that I've heard has been popping up courtesy of Destination Stone. So, I mean, they just you guys want to hit them up, and I mean, it's a nice budget way if you want to get some horror novels. Go check it out, get them at cheaper prices than say, maybe your Barnes and Noble. What's the one that you have out by you? Is it Second and
Second and
Charles?
Charles, yeah, we use Second and Charles a lot. My family and I, we
Okay.
love that place because they're secondhand. They're basically like a pawn shop. They do have new books, but you can sell some old books to them, and they take a lot of stuff. They buy collectibles. They sell collectibles. They sell video games, vintage all the way up to modern. I mean, my daughters have a great time in there. We find manga. My wife found great books in there. Again, Second and Charles, if y'all want to sponsor us, I'm telling y'all, I've spent so much money at your store, it's not even funny. But
Now,
again, it's all about finding the deal. And abebooks.com. My wife put me onto this. Now my wife's a bibliophile because abe abebooks.com. That website is criminal. Criminal for fans that are fans of manga, because you
Mhm.
can get manga for $2 shipping.
So I mean, there you go, guys. Some nice spots where you can go ahead and pick up some books. But also, speaking of picking things up, now books and graphic novels kind of play perfectly with next week's episode, because next week's episode, well, Marvel before it was Marvel. It's let's just say
The MCU before
the
Disney got its
the
hands on it.
the beta version of Marvel content. Okay, I think that's going to be like Marvel beta would be the best way to put this.
Marvel
Um,
1.0.
Back in the 80s, before Marvel, uh, 80s and 90s, technically speaking, before Marvel really had any hits, because Marvel's first big hit outside of the Tobey
Iron Man.
Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies,
Iron Man.
outside of that is Iron Man. This goes
Mhm.
way further. We're talking 80s and 90s Marvel movies that you probably did not, some of you may have known, and some you may be afraid once you hear us talk about them. The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren.
And Lou Gossett Jr.
Lou Gossett Jr. I still have that on DVD, believe it or not.
I love that
Uh,
movie.
Fury, starring David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. Guys,
For
we shit you not. This is an actual movie that happened. It was
and it
like a
was the
TV
first
movie.
time they
It was
introduced the
bad.
life model decoys, folks.
LMDs, guys. Speaking of LMDs, we got Oakhurst Studios. Hey, Vern in the chat. He's the life model decoy himself. How you doing? We just wrapped up talking about It chapters 1 and 2, Wishmaster, and of course the original Hellraiser. We're just discussing our movies for next week. Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren and Louis Gossett Jr. We have Fury by starring David Hasselhoff, and we have Captain America. Now, Captain America actually it co-stars Ronnie Cox in there, who was a friend of who was like a big fan of Captain America. Of course, Captain America Frozen, Thawed Out, Take on the Red Skull. These are like awesomely bad movies that you would see like on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day on Saturday nights. Okay,
Oh,
but
let's throw an honorable mention there.
but these are fun.
We're briefly gonna mention the Roger Corman. Yes, folks.
Oh, the Roger Corman Fantastic
Fantastic
Four
Four.
does exist on YouTube if you want to watch that
So if
horrific.
you want to watch that horror movie, because it's not a bad movie, it's oh god bad movie, but
It's on the verge of
what would you get if
gouge
a
my
guy that
eyes
loves
out.
what would you get if you get a comic book fan that's also a porn director and he puts the two loves together? That's all I'm gonna say. Go watch the
I
movie.
mean, there's even a Justice League variation out there too, so we're not even going to
Yes.
go there.
Yes. So
Oh.
those are our movies for next week, folks.
Apparently Vern says he has it on VHS.
I saw it on VHS at a comic book convention in New York City.
He said he has it on VHS. So,
Dude, if I had a VCR, I would totally ask you
by
to
the
make
way,
me a copy.
anyone who's watching and listening to this, because this is also available on Spotify, if you're listening to this VHS, if you're not familiar with VHS, it was a form before we had DVDs. We had
Beta.
VHS video cassette players, VCRs, a rectangular little device that was kind of like an audio cassette but with video, and that's how we watched our movies back in the day. We even
Folks,
recorded.
it started with Betamax. Which is the larger tapes. Then we went down to VHS, which were smaller tapes.
Laserdisc.
Then Laserdisc, the big record size movies. Then we went to DVD.
Yep. He
And
said he
Blu-ray.
picked it up at the SDCC.
DC, exactly. I figured as much.
So Vern, are you gearing up for SDCC? I bet you are. But guys, those were our picks. Those are our movies this week. We actually did 4, and we didn't even hit 2 hours. So
I know
we're
we
getting
did good
better.
this week. We're getting better.
We're getting better at this.
So just so you all know, Dave and I have talked about it. We pretty much feel that our format fits an hour and a half. So if we go an hour and a half, that's fine. If we go a little bit over, that's fine. We just want you guys to know what to expect when you're watching. So we love doing this. It's a lot of fun. We try to give you guys the best quality of not only for video but for audio as well. We don't want you guys to just have a little bit of like, oh, like we don't know what we're talking about. No, Dave and I actually do deep dives into these movies. So we look at
we
the actors,
rewatch the movies before we do the show. We actually rewatch these movies beforehand. So got to figure like It that was about what 4.5 hours
Five
long.
hours. It was 5 hours. That was
just,
5 hours of
watching
movie.
that. But the other
Yep.
movies, I mean, we again, if you have suggestions of movies that you want us to go over, please feel free to either hit us up on Instagram
Comment
or
on
you. Well,
Twitter. Message us
first
on
off, you can
Twitter.
hit us up in the comment section below as always. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and please share this on all your socials. But of course, we have the Outer Dimensions podcast on Twitter. We have the Outer Dimensions podcast on Instagram. We even have the Outer Dimensions podcast at gmail.com. And of course, you can find us at the place for podcasts, which is always Spotify.
Yes, folks, we are there.
Just look
Five
us up as
episodes
the Outer
currently.
Dimension podcast on Spotify, and you'll find us.
And there are 5 episodes that Dave has uploaded. This episode will not go up till probably, we'll say we're going to give a couple episodes and we'll do it like that till we start seeing a steady following. Now, obviously, if that happens like in a week or two, then every week we will have it on Thursdays
Yep.
afternoons. We'll have it uploaded again, so you will have an episode every
Yep.
Thursday after it airs on YouTube. So again, if you can't see it and you want to watch the replay, or if you got to listen to it at work and you want to listen to something while that, we'll have you on Spotify. Just find us there. Every click matters, folks.
And Vern, you just popped in just now. So, hey, if you want to listen to the entire podcast, you can just go and find us right on Spotify. He says, but I will meander around downtown and all the outside events because he's right down there by San Diego for the
Oh, bless
Comic
you, dude.
Con.
That's
So,
that's awesome.
but yeah, but a lot of craziness. And by the way, thank you, Duffman. Thank you, Captain Spaulding. Thank you, TC. Thank you, Joe from the FM Figures for coming through the chat stream here, and everyone else. And guys, I want to thank everyone who's been coming through. And Vern, thank you for supporting us for coming through. And you can always check Vern out on Saturday afternoons. The Toy Duos every Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. Amazing stream. If you're into toy collecting and maybe some modification of toys or just toy news, you want to check him out. Great supporter of the channel. And Dre, what do you have going on this week?
Well, I had this awesome interview on Monday that I did with Latin Nerd Cosplayer, which was a lot of fun. Go follow him on
Let me switch.
Instagram. Don't worry. Go look at on Instagram at Latin Nerd Cosplayer, all one word. He was amazing to have on and talk to. Just he did some great cosplay of Miles Morales and just getting to learn about him and what he did with the Puerto Rican Day Parade and him doing charity events. Dave has actually gotten to know about him, so it was kind of cool that he knew Dave and Dave knew him. I do have another. I will do probably another live on either tomorrow or Friday, and then actually, surprise! One of my next week lives is going to be with EC Collecting. Yes, folks, EC Collecting. My boy Colin wants to do a video. We got to get together, do a little collabo. We're going to open some toys in the mid
Awesome.
afternoon. So it's going to be from about 3 o'clock Eastern time till about 4 o'clock. And we're just going to talk toys, talk news, crack open toys, do something I haven't done in a long time. And that's on Tuesday. Obviously, Wednesday we have our show here, and then
Now,
I do
what
plan.
time? What time are we talking? East Coast time?
East Coast time for Tuesday will be 3 p.m. Eastern. Also,
So
wait,
got
I
that,
did
guys?
forget. I cannot believe I forgot this. Also, on Monday, this coming Monday, I will be on Hey Archer's Nerd Affiliated podcast, the coffee talks
Right there in
about
the
the
morning.
Flash. So
Yep.
me and him, so I will be live with him talking the Flash. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about everything. And if you guys have been watching Hey Archer, he's an amazing dude. His coffee talks are hilarious, and it's just
Yeah, you can
really
find him under
knowledgeable.
Nerd Affiliated on Instagram and YouTube, and also under Hey Archer. He has actually a few channels, but his main one is Nerd Affiliated. He's an amazing content creator. He makes some of the funniest reaction videos. He's got a nice little quick video on Instagram right now of him reacting after seeing Flash. A very
Yes.
quick teaser, non-spoilery, but he's got the full discussion, the full 411 with Dre here this Monday morning
Yep,
on Nerd Affiliated.
we're gonna zip some coffee and make some cracks about the Flash because Lord knows I have so many things to say about it.
I still have to find some time to watch it, or we'll see if there's alternate methods. I don't know.
I may find you an alternate method. Wink, wink. For those that are, I have to say that wink,
But
wink for the podcast.
that's what you have going on this week, right?
Yes, sir. What about you? Tell us what do you
Oh,
got this week?
oh boy. Well, those that know me, Dave, I am Dave's Dimension, the channel where chaos and insanity will always reign supreme. Your home for tech, toys, and talk. Uh, I'm actually putting out a video tonight. It's not a regular
Woo!
video. The video is because I do a lot of different things, including fundraising for Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Institute. So I have a little quick, like 10-minute video coming up. Basically, reaching out to everyone and anyone out there who follows my channel and who comes across me to help donate to the Ride for Roswell, which is an annual fundraising event for Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Institute. It is this Saturday. This Saturday at 7:30 in the morning, I begin my 45-mile ride from Buffalo, New York, through Canada, back into Niagara Falls, US, all the way back to the University of Buffalo, 45-mile bike ride. Yes, I am nuts. I am crazy. I am insane, and deranged. But yeah, I am doing this 45-mile bike ride. Right now, I've raised $1,300. I'm hoping to reach $1,500 by Saturday morning. That is the goal.
So
So if you
please reach out
guys
to
are
us on our socials, folks.
yeah,
Please reach out. This is a good
so
cause.
the video I have dropping on Dave's Dimension, you can look me up as Dave's Dimension on Instagram and also on YouTube. Go there, you'll see the video. It's going to premiere at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. Check the video out. It's going to have information in the video itself and also in the description below for donation. Okay, so if you want to donate, there's many different ways you can do it. Just go ahead and check it out. Every dollar, every nickel, every dime makes a world of difference because cancer doesn't just affect the patient, it affects their families, it affects their mindsets. Even after they overcome it, it changes them for life. And every year, the Ride for Roswell last year raised $5.6 million just from the bike ride itself, guys. Just from people fundraising for the bike ride, they raised $5.6 million for cancer research and development. Okay. And personally, my mother had skin cancer for a number of years. It wasn't a factor in her passing, but it, affected her life and how she perceived herself for many years. My father passed from, we found out he had cancer after he passed. Some people
My
hide
mom
it,
died from it. I lost my mom 10 years ago to acute
Yeah.
myeloid leukemia.
So, I mean, cancer, it affects everybody. We all know someone who's been affected by it one way or the other. This is my third year doing this. It's my wife's ninth year doing this because we have known people, both related and unrelated, who have been affected by cancer. So please, if you can donate, please, it makes a world of difference. Help me help Roswell, and we're going to ride for a cure. And I also will be recording the ride just as I did last year. So hopefully be on the lookout next week for a video of me hopefully not passing out on the bike ride.
He will not.
So
If he has to call me, he will, folks.
yeah, that'd be a bit of a ride, wouldn't it?
Dre, I need your help. Listen, I can yell
You're
at
like
you.
what, 5, 6, maybe 8 states away.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But no, it's gonna be a fun, great time. Again, there's Dre's link right on the screen right there as Sue's Geek Vault.
And we actually had some growth this past week, so I'm real proud of it. Thank you for the people from the Latin Nerd Cosplay. We got about 3 new subscribers just from
Awesome.
watching that. So every little bit helps, folks. And like I said, me, I don't care about the numbers. I know YouTube does,
And
but hey,
here we are, Dave's Dimension. I have not been putting out as much content. Things have just been a little bit crazy. I recorded footage in New York City, but much of it was unusable due to some issues, and it was a very crowded event. Don't worry, I will have things working, or I will have some things worked out for next year's events. That is, if I'm able to attend, because there's some family conflicts next year. My niece is going to be graduating high school, so I may not be doing the Ghostbusters Day on the 40th anniversary next year. So that's going to be interesting. But also, we got the Nickel City Con later this month. We'll see if I can get some footage there. I'm hoping to. But yeah, Dre's got his live streams. He's got that big. He's in the big time with Hey Archer.
yeah, I mean, I didn't realize I was going to be hitting the big time, but I hit a home run asking my boy
Right?
to talk to me about it, and he was like, "Yo, I want to talk about it." So that's Monday. I literally got something Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, folks. So my beginning of next week is going to be
Yep.
going strong, and it's going to be talking Flash, be opening some toys, and then obviously keeping it kind of themed to comic books all week long.
Flash and cameos,
Oh
right?
Lord,
So,
the things I could say.
so guys, we're almost at that 2 hour mark. So, um, there's my link right there. Just look me up as Dave's Dimension. You'll find all the crazy details. Also, if you guys, as always, if you guys are content creators and you want to collab either with the Outer Dimensions podcast or with Dre or me individually, our links are right in the video description below, guys. So you can always hit us up. We're always open for anything and everything. Oh, Vern says careful. Supergirl was awesome.
Oh no, she was great. I loved her. Like I loved her. She was
I'm I
amazing.
I haven't seen the movie, but I think she looks amazing. So
So
I'm hoping
Okers,
there's more with her.
watch Monday. Listen, watch Monday when I'm on Coffee Talks, and you'll see me talk about her and her
Yeah,
role in the movie.
Vern, we're talking 45 U.S. miles, not the kilometers or kilometers.
A,
Oh yeah, don't you know?
we love you guys in Canada.
Vern says, "Can you move? Can you move the graduation?"
Yeah, we just out of high school. Listen, y'all got to graduate the day before so he can go the
Well,
next day.
it's the graduation party. That's the weekend, so we'll see what happens.
Ah.
We will see what happens. Hopefully, it'll work out. But also depends on what day Ghostbusters Day will be on next year, because depending on what other organizations, hint, hint, wink, wink, have going on, who knows? It may be celebrated the week before, the week after. We don't know. And plus, you know how movies get delayed. Ghostbusters Firehouse may not come out until next June. So who knows?
Yeah, we have to wait and see what's going on because everything's getting delayed, folks. Everything.
Stay tuned. Well, I mean, right now they're looking at December, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, and yeah, but that's something that we might do a quick little video on too. We'll actually give you guys a little bit of the
Yeah,
update on what's going on with that
maybe
because
movies being shuffled around. What does that mean? Like we've seen the delays with King Dynasty and a few others, so we'll see what happens.
yep. So we're not going to talk about the actual issues with Jonathan Majors, but we will mention that. So
Duffman, I don't know what specifically you're referring to. I'm going to have to take a look into that. But to answer your question, Dave's Dimension is still. Yeah, I'm still. Oh, I see what he put in the comments. That's going to be this discussion for my channel, but I'm still under that threshold, technically speaking. So we'll see what happens in the future.
yeah, we're working on getting
Yeah.
getting him up there. So,
but yep, we're going to be throwing out some. There's going to be some live streams happening soon.
yeah, I got 2 live streams next. We got this one next week Wednesday. We got mine on Tuesday.
Conflicts will happen. They will be happening regardless. So that's all I will say about that. But next week we have Marvel Beta. I mean, maybe that's what we'll call it.
You know what? That's Marvel Beta 1. It's going to be Beta
Yep.
1.
Beta 1. So Marvel Beta 1.0. It's the early days of Marvel before Marvel was even Marvel.
We're going to have to do, yeah. Folks, we're going to go down that rabbit hole. Me and Dave I'm going to create a whole Marvel Beta 1, Beta 2, and then Alpha.
I mean,
and we'll do Alpha.
I mean, we can even do a comparison of the Spider-Man. We could do 1970s Spider-Man.
Oh,
we could do Japanese Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
We could do Toby.
Lou Ferrigno. Don't even sleep on Ferrigno and Norton. We got.
And what was the other actor's name? I'm blanking on his name.
Eric Bana.
Yeah. Bana.
Yeah, Bana.
No. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot. We can even do some comparisons of Night of the Batman. We can do a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of stuff we can play around with, but we have a lot coming through the pipeline. So guys, until next time, this is Dave and Dre from the Outer Dimensions podcast, and all we're gonna say is be awesome, be cool,
and see you on the other side of that portal.
Yep, we'll catch you in the flip side.